Welcome back, gentle viewers. We're here for part 2 of D&D 4th edition. Now we're up to this wonderful little edition called Skill Challenges. What they are, in my opinion, is they're an excuse so you don't have to role play. Now I can see a lot of you out there shutting off your browsers, screaming in terror at the skies. How can he say this? Folks, hear me out on this. You're presented with a situation. You have to, and this is pulled right out of the Dungeon Master Guide, cold, one might say, that you need the Baron's help to stop some goblin attacks. So you have a series of 5 skills you might choose to use for this event. You might use diplomacy, bluff, history, but don't you dare use intimidate because that automatically fails and hurts you. And each time you do something, it moves you one step closer to your success threshold. Yeah, honestly, folks, I can handle stuff like this in almost any game with a brief bit of actual personal interaction. Yes, you have to say, but Baron, what about your history in fighting the goblins back in the battle of blah, blah, blah? But really, all of this can be just summarized by 1 or 2 moments of decent role-playing. Which brings me to probably another one of my biggest complaints about this, is they have done everything they can to take role-playing out of the hands of the players and into a mechanical event. There's no good way to, in my opinion, break away from what is established here. There is no decent way to say, hey, I want to break this convention, because to me, reading through these things, the game goes, really? Are you sure you wouldn't rather do this? People complain that the Dragonlance games were railroady, and now they're embracing D&D 4th edition? Please. The Monster Manual has most of the standard critters there. You've got, flipping through here, the crocodile, because every game needs at least 5 or 6 of those. Then you have the devils, they're there, the Kotoa, a little blast from the past, manticores, and then they introduce new monsters, which, okay, that doesn't bother me that much because every edition has introduced their new critters, and like I said, that's all right. But they're set up in these stack blocks that are really hard to sort of dig your way through and call anything out of. So, what can we say about D&D 4th edition that hasn't already been said by me during this review at length? 1. It's almost unrecognizable as Dungeons & Dragons if it didn't have the pretty new logo and some of the standard tropes, which are still pretty much stolen from Tolkien and Moorcock. Secondly, if you weren't a dedicated player who was going to play 4th edition no matter what, then this probably is not the game for you. If you weren't willing to dedicate your life to learning this, assuming that every single player has at least this book handy, then there's a good chance that this game would not be for you. If you wanted a simpler game that you could understand better, if you thought 3.5 was too complicated, that you sort of wanted to get a hold of and role play casually, like you got some buddies that come over once every other week, and you get some beer, you get some pretzels, this game is not for you. Who then is this game for? This game is for people who are dedicated to playing Dungeons & Dragons because of the name and nothing else. This game is for people who are looking for a massive multiplayer role-playing game online in a paper and pen format. Ladies and gentlemen, I read this. I felt like I was reading the World of Warcraft game even more than the World of Warcraft game role-playing game was. This game is not for me, as you can probably tell from my little rantings and ravings here. If you haven't picked that up yet, what show are you watching? What can I say that is good about this game? This will probably be a decent gateway drug, to use a phrase, that will be good for bringing people into the hobby, particularly those that are dedicated to playing the massive multiplayer online role-playing games, that are like, well, this isn't so bad. My only concern is that they're going to get into this, and then they're not going to be interested in branching out to see what else is in the hobby. What can I say in summary? I think Dorothy Parker said it best, and I'm going to paraphrase her here. This is not a game to be cast aside lightly. It should be thrown, and with great force. This will not be the death knell of role-playing, ladies and gentlemen. I don't believe for a second it will. Wizards will keep right on chugging merrily away. I do not feel that this is very honest to its forebearers. I've seen very few games that make me want to go back and, gosh, I wish I could play 3.5 again. Yeah, words I never thought I'd say. If you want a better version of 3.5, if 3.5 doesn't quite do it for you, but you're really not as dedicated to 4.0 just from the name, ladies and gentlemen, I recommend you go check out Pathfinder. Previous reviews of mine have dealt with this. In fact, these aren't even my books. These belong to a friend of mine who wanted to give it more of a chance than I did. And I salute him for his honesty and dedication to the hobby. I gave him my copy of Pathfinder because I said, you know what, Dennis, that's his name is Dennis. Here you go, there's your shout out. You know what, Dennis, I'm not ever going to play Pathfinder because I've got a lot of games and it just really isn't my cup of tea. But it's not a bad game. You like D&D 3.5, but you had some issues with it. Take a look at Pathfinder. If you like it, it's yours. He took a look at it. He loved it. He's playing it now. His group likes it a lot, and they have really walked away from 4.0. I can't say that I think they're going to be alone in that event. So, for those of you begging for a negative review, there you go. For those of you who want the happier, gentler Kurt back, who likes role-playing games and likes what he reviews, tune in next week for something more upbeat, happy, and cheerful. For Game Geeks, I'm your host, Kurt Wiegel, and in case you're wondering, yes, I am wearing flame-retardant clothing right now. Good day and good gaming.